Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. For today's video, we will be talking about runes and how they work in League of Legends Wild Rift. And without wasting any time, let's get started. First, let's define runes. Runes are equipped and used to enhance the abilities and stats of a champion within the game. There are 26 runes, each with its different purposes, and they are divided into 4 rune classifications. The first row is called Keystones, which are the primary runes. The second, third, and fourth row are called secondary runes, and they are called Domination, which focuses on damage, Resolve, which focuses on defense, and lastly, Inspiration, which focuses on objectives and resources such as gold and mana. And you have to keep in mind that you can only equip 4 runes, 1 on each row. Now let's talk about Keystones. Keystones are the most powerful runes and they have the most effect to your champion within the game. And there are 8 Keystones to choose from. The first one is called Electrocute. Hitting a champion with 3 separate attacks or abilities in 3 seconds deals bonus adaptive damage, meaning if your champion scales with attack damage, then your bonus adaptive damage will be attack damage. But if your champion scales with ability power, then your bonus adaptive damage will be ability power or magic damage. This keystone is good for champions that have high burst damage like assassins and mages. The next one is called Aerie. Your attacks and abilities send Aerie to a target, either damaging enemies or shielding allies. This keystone is great for supports. You have to keep in mind that you can only send Aerie again once it returns to you. The next one is called Conqueror. Hitting a champion with separate attacks or abilities will gain up to 5 stacks of adaptive force, and once it's full, you can deal bonus adaptive damage to champions. Unlike Electrocute, which deals burst damage, Conqueror will make you deal more damage at a longer period of time, which makes it great for champions that have good sustain like fighters. The next one is called Fleet Footwork. Moving, attacking, or casting abilities builds energy stacks. When you reach 100 stacks, your next attack heals you and grants increased movement speed, which makes it great for ADCs or marksmen. The next one is called Grasp of the Undying. Every 4 seconds in combat, your next attack on a champion will be enhanced based on your max health. It also gives increased health as well as heal, which makes it good for champions who are in Baron or solo lane because it helps them deal damage and stay longer in the lane because of the healing effect that this keystone gives. The next one is called Aftershock. After immobilizing an enemy champion, you will gain a bonus defense and later deal a burst of magic damage around you. This keystone is good for champions that have good crowd control, especially tanks and supports in the dragon or duo lane, because they are expected to engage and immobilize enemies. And if the enemy retaliates, they can gain benefits with the bonus defense and bonus burst damage that this keystone gives. The next one is called Font of Life. Impairing the movement of an enemy champion marks them, and when allies attack the marked enemies, they will heal based on your health. This keystone is great for champions that have large crowd controls because they can mark a lot of enemies. And the last is Kleptomancy. After using an ability on an enemy champion, Your next ability or attack on an enemy will grant you a random item effect. And now I will show you what it looks like. This keystone is commonly used by supports, but you can experiment with this keystone. As you can see, I am using it now with Ezreal. And that's all about the 8 keystones. Now let's move forward with the secondary runes. What are domination runes? Domination runes are runes that focuses around damage, and there are 6 options. The first one is called Brutal. This rune is an adaptive rune, meaning if you're using an attack damage champion, then you will gain 7 AD and 2% armor penetration. But if you're using an ability power champion, then you will gain 14 AP and 2% magic penetration, which makes it great for champions that have burst damage like assassins and mages. The next one is called Gathering Storm. This is also an adaptive rune. Every 2 minutes, you will gain either 2 AD or 4 AP, depending on the champion that you are using. This rune is very good for champions that are very strong in the late game. The next one is called Hunter Vampirism. This rune is an adaptive rune which grants AD or AP, as well as lifesteal. It could either be physical vamp or magical vamp, depending on the champion that you are using. This rune is great for solo laners because this will give them sustain, which will allow them to stay longer in the lane. The next one is called Triumph. This rune will restore 10% of your missing health with every assist or kill that you get. It will also enable you to deal more damage to enemies that are below 35% health. This rune is great for teamfights because it will allow you to stay longer in the battle with every champion takedowns that you get. The next rune is called Weakness. If you impair the movement of an enemy champion with a crowd control like stun or knock up, the enemy will take 5% more damage for the following 5 seconds. This rune is great for champions that have a lot of crowd control on their skills. And lastly, Champion. This rune will allow you to gain 10% damage against champions, and you will lose 5% each time you die until the bonus disappears. If you think that you can kill a lot of enemies and you will not die frequently, then this is the rune for you. Now let's move to the next type of secondary runes, which are Resolve runes. Resolve runes are runes that focuses around defense. And again, there are 6 runes to choose from. The first one is called Backbone. Right at the start of the game, you will gain 10 armor or 10 magic resist, based on whichever stat you have less of. The next one is called Conditioning. At the start of the game, you will have a weak defensive stats, but after 5 minutes of game time, you will gain 8 bonus armor and magic resist. The next one is called Hunter Titan. This rune will give 20 max health, and if you get a kill or assist with the 5 different enemy champions, each takedown will grant 20 max health and 4% tenacity. The next one is called Regeneration. Every 3 seconds, 2% of your missing health or mana will be restored, based on whichever percentage is lower. If your champion loses a lot of health or consumes a lot of mana, this is the rune for you. The next one is called Loyalty. This rune gives bonus armor and magic resist, both on your champion and your closest ally. This rune is good for the duo lane, especially for supports. And lastly, Spirit Walker. These runes give 50 max health and 20% slow resistance. If you see that the enemy composition have a lot of slows, this is a good runes to equip. And now we are at the last type of runes, which are the Inspiration runes. Inspiration runes are runes that focuses around objectives and resources such as gold and mana. The first one is called Pathfinder. This rune gives 8% movement speed in brush, jungle, and river when out of combat. This rune is good for champions who need to roam around the map, specifically junglers. The next one is called Mastermind. This rune will allow you to deal more damage to epic monsters and turrets. It will also give extra gold and EXP upon taking these objectives. This rune is good for junglers because it will allow them to take objectives much faster and at the same time gain more gold and EXP. The next one is called Hunter Genius. This rune will give 2.5% cooldown reduction, and if you get a kill or an assist with 5 different enemy champions, each takedown will grant 1.5% cooldown reduction. This rune is good for assassins and mages because it will allow them to cast their skills much faster. The next one is called Sweet Tooth. This rune increases honey fruit healing, and it also gives bonus gold with each fruit. This rune is good for ADCs and marksmen because most likely they are the ones who will take the honey fruit, and they will also gain benefit from the bonus gold that this rune provides. The next one is called Pack Hunter. This rune will give you bonus movement speed if you are near to an ally champion. If you get an assist with any of your 5 different ally champions, you and your ally will gain bonus gold with each takedown. And lastly, we have Mana Flow Band. Hitting an enemy champion with an ability or empowered attack will permanently increase your max mana. If your champion consumes a lot of mana, this is a good rune.
And finally, here are a few reminders. You can only change your runes at the loadout or before the game starts. Once the game starts, you can no longer change your runes. That's why it's very important to choose wisely on which runes you are using for the game. Having an understanding on how runes work will give you an advantage against your enemies because you can easily adapt and adjust depending on which champion you are against and what situation you are in. And that's everything about the runes in League of Legends Wild Rift. I hope you learned something from this video, and if you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like. And if you have any question, suggestion, or recommendation for future content, feel free to comment down below. And if you want more content and guides about League of Legends Wild Rift, consider subscribing. And as always, thank you all for watching, and I will see you on the next one.